guys. Well, welcome to episode 7. Today I'm here with a good friend of mine, an entrepreneur, Latina, a total badass woman. She is also owner of her own construction company, former realtor, curly hair, island girl. I can go on and on, but I'll let her introduce herself. And I also want to thank her, for taking the time. She's a very busy girl, and trying to get her on my podcast was gold. So thank you for that, Gloria.
Wow, well, thank you. I don't think I have to do much more of an introduction since you pretty much covered a lot of bases. However, thank you again. I'm humbled, for the opportunity to be here today and to be a part of this podcast and this podcast journey. Congratulations again on your new podcast for 2022. And I've been excited to see the guests that you have on the podcast and also the guests that you have coming forward. So a little bit about me that we didn't touch on. Yes, I'm an island girl. I was born and raised actually in the Caribbean. I am from Puerto Rican descent as well as New York. So both of my parents, my mom was born and raised on the island of Puerto Rico. My father was born and raised in New York. And my family's kind of a mishposh of a lot of different cultures and races. However, we were predominantly raised Hispanic Latino in the Caribbean, and of course, jamming to carnival music this time of year because that's coming up very shortly. So my father was in oil and gas. My grandfather was a taxi driver in New York, as well as my uncle, and they had like a million side hustles. I think like most immigrant families and parents, Stephanie, you and I have had many conversations and can probably relate. And they did everything that they could to, build a better future in America for us, for the future generations. My father being a second generation and then us being now a third generation. My father was an expat in oil and gas. So we grew up in Aruba and the U.S. Virgin Islands. I say 3.5 languages because I don't really speak Dutch anymore, but I did grow up speaking Dutch fluently. I grew up speaking some Portuguese. I grew up speaking Papiamento, which is a Portuguese Creole of the Netherlands Antilles. And we lived there for nearly a decade. And I spent a lot of my formidable years, I think, in and around the oil and gas industry, the construction industry as it pertains to oil and gas. My grandparents started a side hustle as well in 1989 after Hurricane Hugo. And for people who were around the United States in the 1980s know about Hurricane Hugo because it slammed the Carolinas as well. So Hurricane Hugo was one of history's most, I think, prominent Category 5 hurricanes and really changed the landscape of how at least the island of St. Croix, where my family currently resides, builds and the building code. And so my uncle was a builder. He built houses. He built the house that my grandparents lived in. He built the house that my aunt still, lives in. And I think my brother and my cousins rent apartments at, which is a multifamily, and we can get into that. But, a little bit of my background is really mostly my family, right? Because I think that everything that I do and everything that is a part of my life right now really comes from my family history. And without going on and on and on about my incredible nomadic expat family, that's just in a nutshell a little bit about, my background and myself. We moved to the United States, the mainland, as we like to call it, in 2001, right before 9/11. Literally like right before 9/11. And we moved to Texas, like most people in the oil and gas industry. I graduated from the Woodlands High School. I attended Baylor University. I, had a million different jobs in retail and multiple different things and made my way up to New York in 08, 09. And have been in New York on and off since, and short stints back to Texas, and real estate, construction, development, banking, anything and everything I think that has to do with this industry has been a part of my career since 08, 09.
Well, this about Gloria, and we've talked a lot offline. I mean, we really truly became friends, and well, the way I met Gloria was when I flew out to New York. I went to a real estate event, and the goal was to go to the real estate event. And I didn't make it to the real estate event. I made it a few hours. Oops. But I was blessed to meet Gloria. I mean, this woman you heard her story, and I didn't know much about her background, but that obviously explains why she is who she is and how she's made an impact in the construction community and the real estate community, and why I look up to her in many ways, because she's just a badass. And it shows now the backstory, hearing the backstory and tying it into real estate, it explains why. And I think that although I didn't make it to the real estate event for only 2 hours, I think it was, for the most part, I got to meet the city. Gloria came out of her way. She showed me around. She gave me so much knowledge on how to lift up my business and what it is that I'm looking to do in the ADU space, and we'll get into that in a bit. But I mean, she's here to talk about, and I hope that you guys listening can resonate with a lot of what she does. And it's so nice to see two Latinas, people that look like us, walk like us, talk like us, can do it. If you see her, you see her growth, and you hear her story. And I hope that some women out there are resonating and saying, you know what, I can give this a shot too, because if Gloria's doing it and Steph are doing it, why can't I? Right? And that's the purpose. That's the purpose of the podcast. I wanted her to share her expertise, and my favorite topics are real estate and now construction, which is something that I tapped into. And I won't take up her space. I'll maybe talk about it on her podcast, but she knows why I've taken it very personal to really educate myself within the construction space, with the real estate space, and who better to educate us on the whole construction topic than Gloria. She owns her own construction company, and so the mic is all yours. If I wanted to tap into the construction space, where do I get started? How do I do it? Like, give us the nuggets here.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is if you want to tap into the construction space, or it's even something that's like a bug that, keeps, buzzing and is like really annoying, you don't even know if to pull the trigger, then obviously you should pull the trigger because that's coming from within, and it's probably something that you're passionate about. Society, okay, and not just here, and we can go back to our culture, Stephanie, will tell us that construction is a dirty job. Construction is, for low income, low skilled, ignorant, and I'm not trying to insult anybody because I'm in the construction industry, but this is a stigma around the construction industry. And our parents, my parents, your parents, and other parents, and I can't speak to other cultures, but I can speak to ours, wanted us to go to school, get good grades, and not be in the construction industry. They wanted us to get a real job, right? Isn't that what they said? A real job. And so number one, we need to start there, right? So we need to start with education of parents, of adults, of people talking around little kids about the construction industry and blue collar jobs in general. We need to make it to where people understand that the skilled trades, that people in the construction industry make just as much, if not more sometimes, than orthodontists and dentists and doctors and lawyers and, even the architects.
She's right.
Okay. So it starts there. It starts with education, I think. And it starts with educating the people who, to no fault of their own, right? Because they just wanted better for us. told us not to go into those careers.
They didn't know any better. That's what they thought was the American dream. I mean, a lot of Latinos, I'm also first generation. Gloria's first, second generation, but still very heavily first generation.
I'm first generation, but not really, because my dad is first generation and I wasn't even born. I wasn't even born in this country. We moved here. So my kids would be a first generation.
I would consider them.
Because I was not born here.
Alex is kind of on your same shoes. I mean, his dad is from Mexico and I'm first generation. But yes, it's a lot of unwiring of how we were taught, what we were taught to do, think, and how we move. And aside from from the construction business being very lucrative, just like real estate, for me, it's more than that, right? It's the impact that you get to make within your own community. You get to, gain all this knowledge, make this money, handle a business, manage people. But then what are you doing with that? How are we going to maintain that within our community? It starts with the little ones. And I have an 8-year-old. Exactly.
We invest, right? And that's where the real estate comes in. But as a brown, Latina, Caribbean girl, in the real estate industry, because my story started as a realtor, I didn't see a lot of people like me coming to me to buy houses or buy buildings or invest or fix and flip or any of that. So the second way that I would say that people can tap into the construction industry is to do what I did. Okay. I was in a family where I was encouraged to do anything that I wanted to do. Right. But I was taught, go to school, get good grades, blah, 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 whatever. We don't have to go through that again. But so I thought getting a white collar job, maybe being the realtor or maybe being the banker, because I did spend a couple of years in commercial banking and we didn't even talk about that. And I did real estate fix and flip, but like the big hotels and the big buildings, like on, in the stock market for capital markets. And so, I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And then when I was forced through an injury to slow down and have a surgery, and I was bored, and I decided to take some of the money that I had made, which was not a lot, because I'm still young, just like you, and invest it in real estate and try it. I, again, didn't see a lot of people like me. And what I did see was a lot of people like me getting taken advantage of as construction workers, as laborers, as the subcontractors, as anything. And then I understood why our family and our people told us to go find a better job and a better profession, because the construction industry, unfortunately, leaves a lot to be desired in terms of integrity. And, we can go down a rabbit hole as it pertains to that. But
they go hand in hand.
I mean, it is what it is, right? Real estate is the same way. So I wanted to create a business, to create a company that was a better way of doing this business and that treated their employees in a better way, and that really did take care of them, and that offered them training, and that listened. And it was truly a family business, because I did grow up in a family business. And so that's how G. Marie & Co. started part-time. I was a realtor in Texas, and I had investors and, celebrities and different people I was working with. And the broker I was working with was great at getting clients, especially investor clients. I mean, we made an awesome team together. But in terms of managing the construction, as you know, Stephanie, in the ADU space, or making sure these projects, finished on time, and also to manage carrying costs for investors, God forbid they had to make another monthly payment on a hard money loan or whatever it may be, I found myself in a construction project management role for my investors, and they would offer me additional, and I have to be careful how I phrase this because I don't want people to think that I was taking advantage of my agency role or anything like that. But, we would work out ways into where I would structure myself into the investment deal, right? And then also not just make money as somebody buying and selling the property, but also being part of the investor group. And I know that that's trending in the real estate industry, and it should be trending in the construction industry. There are many ways in where contractors can structure themselves into deals. And I think that that's, part of the weekly educational seminars and masterminds that we have are exactly for that. It's to educate the real estate community as well as educate the construction community that we can collaborate and work together and all be investors and all make money at one. And then the last thing is, is to DIY a little bit, right? Get your hands dirty. So if you are an investor and you're strapped for cash, offer to do some of the work or some of the finish work or learn with the contractor, the subcontractors. I'm not saying 100% of contractors are going to say yes to that, but we do have a labor shortage in the industry. And a lot of times contractors won't schedule a job, particularly a small job, because it's not worth it to them. So if you, Mr. or Mrs. homeowner or business owner or what have you, have the skill set to kind of collaborate and be a part of that and also help the contractor because they may not have certain labor, then, work it out. And again, not saying that every contractor is going to say yes to that. I know contractors that are going to be like, Gloria, what are you talking about? That's crazy. That's insane. Like, I don't want these people on my job site. That's a liability, blah, blah, blah. And good for you. But for smaller projects and for projects where you're working with businesses or homeowners who are in this biz, then I would recommend it. So those are my ways if somebody wants to tap into the construction industry that I would recommend.
Find the opportunity and leverage your skill set that you can bring on and partner up with other people. That's a very great way to put it. I also tell some of the realtors that I work with, it's a mindset shift. We don't look at these deals that way because we're so accustomed to looking at them from a commission base. We're going to make this much off the deal. But if we actually took the time to see how we can be part of that deal and hold some equity, then it just makes it that much better for everybody, because now we're all working together as a team. I see a huge lack in that in the real estate business. But again, it goes back to education. Like she said, knowledge is power. We don't know what we don't know. You don't even know that you can structure deals like this unless you throw yourself out there. So as far as the DIY, that's the only way to learn. A lot of what I've learned, and I didn't go to university like Gloria, a lot of my stuff was hands-on training, just throwing myself.
I didn't graduate university, just to
She's
clarify.
Still smarter.
I'm a dropout, just like the owner of Facebook, just like the owner of Amazon, just like the owner, and I'm not as successful as they are yet. However, very much like I think some great minds of our generation, Stephanie, I realized very quickly on, and you're very smart as well, that for certain careers, for certain paths, we don't need that traditional four-year degree. It's better for us to seek our own education and our own learning and a continued education and certifications and things like
I'm
that.
all for 1,000%. Some people may say that it's no longer the traditional route of going to school, getting a college degree, and going out to the workforce. But as realtors and as Gloria being in the construction space, we constantly have to stay updated with rules and regulations and zonings and guidelines and ordinances and you name it, right? We've got to stay updated. I started tapping into the ADU space, and Gloria helped me a lot. I mean, when I took the trip out to New York, she really helped simplify the process for me. And I quickly had to pivot because I was also finding myself to be in that project management role very quick. It's like you try to solve problems for people, and then they're like, "Oh, can you do this? Can you do that?" And quickly you become the project manager, and that is definitely not my ultimate goal. To become the project manager. I just want to create awareness. We both have that same passion and purpose, is to create awareness, and it comes through with education. So one of the questions that I had for Gloria was, if I was looking to build, I'm going to pivot the conversation a little bit here. If I wanted to build an ADU, what would be that step, that I should take? Who's my team? Who do I work with? Who do I go to? I like to relate everything to real estate. So as far as real estate, we know that who's part of your team is your lender, your TC, your transaction coordinator, your title rep, your escrow officer, your home inspector, your termite guy. That's my team, right? Who's the team when it comes to building an ADU? Like, who should I add to that roster?
And that's actually a really great question. And I'm glad that you asked that question, because a lot of folks don't even take the time to sit down and pre-plan something. So the first thing that you want to do is make a plan. Okay. Whether you're building an ADU in the backyard from scratch, right? And you don't have anything to build on. So we're starting with the dirt and putting a slab and then building on top of the slab, or bringing in a container and, having it on blocks. Like, these are all decisions that need to be made, right? Or if you have a garage that you're converting or expanding, right? Adding to a garage space. Let's say you have a 250, 300 square foot garage and you want to add to that. There are certain steps that you need to take before you even start the construction, right? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make a plan. And the second thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to your local township or municipality, and you're going to talk to them about your plan. Okay. So whether it's you, whether it's a representative that's working on your behalf, whether it's, your trusted design build firm, architect, whoever, somebody needs to go to the town and have a conversation with the town and find out what the zoning is, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. If you don't have a recent survey for the property, you're going to have to get a recent survey for the property. If the property is, older than a certain number of years, there may be additional testing and structural things that you need to do. If you're building on dirt and you need to pour a slab, then, you need to have an environmental test done and check the dirt and make sure that, that dirt is stable. You may need to check the water table if you're near water. So I know in California, that might be something that people need to look at. In coastal areas, Florida is a very hot market right now as well. So there's a lot of things that you need to consider before you even start. Okay. So once you get the go ahead, all right, the dirt is good, the structure is good, the zoning is good, I can do all this. And you know what you need, right? You know that you need plans. You know that you need a permit. You may know that you need to bring in utilities. So you may need to bring in certain engineers and consultants. So once you make a plan, you'll have a list of all the people you need to hire. Okay. And then from there, you're going to make a scope of work. All right. Because you're going to have a plan, you're going to have a design, you might have a schematic at this point, you may have gone to the town, have approved drawings, and have something that we like to call a bid set that then you can go and take to contractors to get pricing and figure out what you want to do. Once you do that, you want to set a budget. And you want to set a budget for three things. The first thing you want to write a budget for is your soft costs, right? So the soft costs are going to be all these professional services I'm talking about. So if you're going to hire an interior designer, if you're going to hire a project manager, if you're going to hire an architect, if you need to hire an engineer. So all of these things that go before you even start building. Then you want to make a budget for your materials and all of your finishes. So if you're going to put in new hardwood flooring, or are you going to put laminate flooring? You know, are you going to put some marble countertop, or do you want to put some, you know, Formica stuff because it's a rental, you know, or it's a granny flat and you need something that's easy to wipe, you know, like you need to make these decisions and set a budget for these things, you know. Are you going to go with brushed nickel hardware, you know, and finishes, or are you going to go with chrome? You know, what color is the grout have to be? And all of these different things. So that's a budget for material. And then you have a budget for labor. And if you're hiring a design build company, they may lump everything into one price, which is why a lot of folks like to hire design build firms. If you hire an owner representative, which is what we do, then you as Mr., Mrs. homeowner or business owner, investor, whatever, get to hire all the subcontractors yourself and kind of GC the project yourself. It's a little bit more work, but you end up saving a lot of money, especially today's day and age, due to price markups in certain materials and certain labor, et cetera, et cetera. And you want to find somebody local, and you want to find somebody that's been doing this, right? So those are the things, right? And then once you bid it out, you figure out who you're going to hire. You want to assign roles and responsibilities, okay? So if you hire a general contractor, the general contractor is responsible for assigning those roles and responsibility. You, as the owner, are responsible for approvals and paying the bills, right? If you hire an owner representative, or you decide as the owner that you're going to project manage your own project because you're one of these DIY people and you've been doing this forever and you've got this down, then it's your job to assign these roles and responsibilities, sign the contracts, set the schedules, milestones, payments, etc., etc. And then the very last thing that you want to do is you want to track it. You know? So you want to track everything, whether you're tracking it from your phone on a shared Google Drive, and you're taking daily log photos and notes. You want to track your delivery schedules. You want to track your labor schedules. You want to track, you know, your inspections. You want to track your sign-offs. You want to track, and I know this is all sounding like a part-time job now, which is why as a homeowner, if you have a job and if you have kids and if you have this and that and everything else, you do not want to manage this project, okay?
Yes.
You either want to take time off from your full-time job to do this, you know, so take some, especially vacation time if you're going to do it yourself, or prepare yourself just mentally that if you work from home and you're going to be doing this and managing this yourself, that you're going to be pulled in a million different directions, and it's not going to be as easy as you think. Going back to that initial conversation that we had where people think that construction is easy, doesn't require much skill, blah, 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 etc. So, you know, hopefully that helped. And those are the different steps that I would give to somebody building an ADU in a nutshell. Of course, you know, from working with me as well as being in some of my masterminds, that it's not that easy. But that's a quick and dirty breakdown of how it works.
Now, everybody who goes back to listen to this podcast, next time they ask me, oh, can you give me an estimate? No, we can't. Because it's just case by case. Everything she explained right now, we need to take into consideration. All these variables, right? Price markups, material costs are going out the roof. The finishes that you want for your specific home. Is it going to be an ADU that you're renting out for long term? Is it going to be an ADU that you're using for your office space or your creative space? Then you may want to put more higher end finishes. It really is case by case, and it's going to be different based on your goal and your preferences. And the cool thing that she outlined here too is that you have two options. You can either be part of the experience or not. It really is based on your preference. But of course, if you don't want to be involved, there is a premium cost to that.
Not really though. And here's why. And here's why. The general contractors, especially this day and age, going to mark up regular price to like 20%. Of, let's say your project costs $100,000, just to keep it simple. This general contractor, he or she may mark up 20 to 25%. And then if you factor in material costs on top of that, they're going to mark up those materials another 10 to 20% and tell you that they're giving you builder discount. Okay. For a small project, you can go to Home Depot and set up your own pro account as a homeowner. I know because my brother-in-law did it with Lowe's, and he gets better discounts than I do because it goes based off of how much you spend, right? And then if you are going to hire different consultants or folks to help you out, those consultants are going to range anywhere from 8 to 12% markup versus 20 to 25%. And you're going to get all the material at cost because you're purchasing it yourself. If you hire the right person or the right team, or you know how to do this yourself. I work with a lot of investors in the East Coast that actually manage their own projects. Then you could save a lot of money, especially as an investor, short-term rental. And I know a lot of people in the ADU space are in the short-term rental space. So I always tell people you could hire a consultant or a coach to teach you like the first walk your hand, hold your hand through the first couple ones. And then once you have a process in place, then you can take over. And if you don't want to take over because you're too busy, then hire somebody. You hire a bookkeeper because you don't like to do your own bookkeeping. Okay. Most business owners hate bookkeeping. It's facts. Okay. It just is what it is. We as millennials and older folks, we hire people to edit our videos, edit our photos, edit our podcasts, we don't have time to learn new technology. Okay. We hire people to teach us and certify us on OSHA, on safety, on carpentry, so my point is you hire a real estate professional to hold your hand through the buying process and pay them a commission. So if you're not a professional in this space, then don't try to be. Just hire somebody, and once you get a hang of it, just like with anything else in life, then you can take over.
You couldn't have said it better. The opportunity is there. You can pay somebody to do it for you, and you don't have to deal with that headache, and you can go about your business and go on your vacation. And it's that saying, delegate to elevate. You've got to delegate certain things and certain aspects of your life so that you can have that stress-free lifestyle. If you're going to you may not have to pay a premium. Like she said, you don't have to. You can pay just enough to get that time back, right? And I'll pay for it any day of the week, right? Mm-hmm. I will pay for my time because I value it very much. Yeah. And as you guys know, I have a kid, so I need as much time. And I really learned a lot, Gloria. I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I'm gonna finish off with one last question, and feel free to share any other thoughts. But is there any other advice or any other takeaways that you want owners to consider when you're putting together this construction project that you just talked about and broke down for us?
Ooh, that's actually a really good question. There's a couple of things. So number one, let's go back to that track it thing that I mentioned at the end of
I love to track and measure too. It's everything. That's how you know how to move after tracking.
It is. Exactly. And most people that are building an ADU or getting into a construction that are following your podcast, I'm assuming, are because they're building an ADU. So most people getting into an ADU are doing it, for investment property, a short-term rental, long-term rental. Maybe they have an aging parent that they're moving into their house. So, they're saving money there. So it's one of those things where you want to track and measure because it's your hard-earned money, right? So the first thing that I will tell people is that technology is your ally, not your enemy. There's a lot of great tools out there that you can use to document and track your projects. As I was talking about a little bit earlier, about hiring somebody to help you with your construction project at a minimal cost, right? Where you could get a little bit of hand holding, but still do everything yourself. I'm going to mention Grace, which I don't know if she's been a guest on your podcast or, you guys, I know you guys talked on her podcast, but, there's a software out there that I like to use called BayRep, and it's a very, very basic software that kind of has a mishposh of different software tools that construction managers use, from Microsoft projects for scheduling and having a Gantt chart and figuring out how, the project progress is going. Having a Google Drive or a shared folder where, you have all the project documents, including your construction plans, any photos, any submittals, RFIs, anything that's pertaining to, let's say you have a special fixture and it's got a special cut sheet with instructions for the electrician. So everything is in one place. All communications is in one place. And there are tons of softwares out there. And I'm not here to endorse a software and or say that folks need to use this particular software, but that's what we use. So if folks come to my website and they have a new project and they want to sign up for that project, automatically we'll take them to that software to tell us about the project, get a little bit more information, and so we can estimate the project for them, right? So software, especially today, is going to be your best friend and will allow you to do more on your own versus hiring people. And then the second thing is, and I've already mentioned this, owners don't know what they don't know. So just know when to do it yourself and know when to hire a professional. Sometimes owners think that construction's easy and doesn't require much skill because the guy on YouTube, and we're probably on YouTube right now, make it look super easy. But I will tell you that it is not easy. And that was how I ended up in the construction industry. I came from a background in construction. I went to estimates with my grandmother as a kid. And, I used to do inventory and logistics and ordering and websites and pamphlets and, all the stuff that, and I can't wait to sit down with you so you can tell me a little bit about you and your family background. But, as kids who speak 2-3 languages, of parents who own businesses and maybe it's not their first language, they always come to us for everything. Translation, technology. I go to the kids now for social media and for help with some of these apps and things. So, it's just amazing. So just know that technology, even in construction, is your ally. It is not an enemy. And those are the things that I would, have folks take away from this conversation. I want to thank you again for having me and, for making the space to have a conversation about construction and, the trades, my career in the construction industry, which is a second career, y'all. So if you think you're too old, you can most definitely join the construction industry. I'm in my mid-30s. I've only been doing construction full time, although I've been in real estate development, construction, sales, everything for, 13 years now. But I've been in construction full time for about 4 or 5 years. So just know that this is a second wind and a second career. And while it has everything and nothing to do with all the stuff I did in real estate, it is definitely truly something that's coming from the heart. And, you know, again, if it's a buzz or a bug that's in you to create, to build, to anything, I beg you, we need you in the construction industry.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time, you know, to join the podcast. I think you gave a lot of value, and I loved what you said about homeowners, about them not knowing what they don't know, right? And also tying it into technology, we have to become friends with the technology because they will help us facilitate the process for the homeowners. So when you come to work with people like Gloria and you choose her company, or you choose to not be part of, you know, the project and you want to outsource everything, you need to just at least have an understanding of how it works and how the process looks, you know, and understand that if you have access to BayRep, which is a very awesome platform. I got to check it out when I met with Grace and recorded a podcast. She gave me the ins and outs of the platform, and it's great for a homeowner. You get to basically have a dashboard where you get to see the entire project. So you can be out on your vacation, logging in and checking and tracking and measuring where your project's at, you know, from the click of a button. And so what I want people to walk away with is that when you're working with professionals like Gloria, you're paying for her expertise and her experience. You get to literally cut time and not have to worry about all the ins and outs because you're paying her for the experience that she has gathered throughout these years, generations by generations, and it's awesome, right? Plus, you get to have a good friend, you know, at the end of the transaction. I'm sure you become friends with certain clients, you know, that are repeat clients.
I do. I do. In fact, I think we become friends with all of our clients. And, you know, I always tell people our secret sauce is love, y'all. I mean, everything that we do is with love, with pure passion. I treat every project, every building, every build out, every renovation that we do as if it's mine. In fact, I tell people when they give me the keys to the building or to the apartment or the house or whatever, hey, thank you so much for giving this to me. I'm going to pretend this is my building for the next year and a half. And when I'm done with it, I'll give it back to you. Okay. You know, because that's really how I feel. I feel like it's mine. I have full ownership of that. And so I treat it, you know, as if I would any project that I would for myself or my family or, you know, my own home, like my own little
Exactly.
office, right? It's that important.
Definitely, you know, vet the people that you work with. Choose somebody like Gloria. If your goals align with her, go for it. You know, I think that it's well worth it, and I promise you, you won't regret it. So I hope that all of you guys learned a lot today. I thank you once again, Gloria. And little sneak peek, we will be actually recording a podcast on her podcast, and I'll be sharing a little bit about my story. I'll open up to you guys a little bit and talk about, you know, our backgrounds, very similar backgrounds, and it was through a relationship. You know, how we got here today was through us making a great connection, and our goals align. A lot of the things that we share in common, we have the same purpose. We want to help you guys. So, you know, if you guys have any follow-up questions or comments or concerns, whatever it is, share it, you know, in the comments down below, because this will be on YouTube, or you can also DM me, you know, after listening to it. And thank you guys again. Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you so very much. And we're really looking forward to have you on the podcast or vlog. I'm not sure if I'm going to do podcasting just yet, but very excited to have you on and to, you know, kind of venture into this space with you. So thank you again. And thank you to all of your listeners and those catching replays and listening and taking notes. I am super accessible, Stephanie, as you know. So to any of the listeners, if there's any follow-up questions, Stephanie, you know how to reach me. Thank you again.
I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.